Francis, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Lydia. Hello, everyone. Can someone confirm you can hear me? Or confirm you cannot hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So maybe for the two people who have not gained any IT skill this year is your year. You can still expect a miracle between now and December. Maybe you can turn to your neighbor and say, this year is your year. But I think maybe more interestingly, what I found interesting about the whole meeting so far, I was just looking at the attendees and I saw a user called Jobs. I mean, what a good time to be in a webinar when there are jobs in the room. So I guess you all will have to be of good behavior because you might just be lucky to get a job. We have jobs in the room. I'll just share my thoughts. I'll be talking about global career opportunities in C#. So I remembered some days back when I used to travel from Uyo to Calabar, and there's this guy that used to sell books, How to Become a Millionaire. And well, maybe he was a millionaire and he preferred to sell books. I don't know, but I hope that I can be as practical as possible so that I don't tell you guys things that might not be useful to you. So I'll just share my screen. I have just a couple of slides to show you guys. I will be stopping whoever is sharing, sorry. And I'll share my screen. Just let me know if you can see my slides.
I can.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So career opportunities in C#, nice slides, no credit to me. I'll just start with, I think most people here would probably be asking themselves one question: what language should I learn? And in the world full of snakes, Python and all the other snake-related languages, all the other framework, React, HTML, CSS, why on earth should I learn C#? And I appreciate the concern that most people have about languages. C# might not even be one of the things you hear around. And when the decision to pick up a new language or pick up your first language, C# might not be the first thing that comes to mind. But why should I learn C#? It makes me throw back to when I was a boy, a fighter. I don't know how many of you ever played this game, Mortal Kombat. There are many reasons why you might want to pick a fighter. First, fighter, on how easy it was for them to combine, those KO moves, really bad moves. Some people just love the women. I preferred Nopsai, but anyways. But people had different reasons for wanting to choose different things. And maybe for you who is probably starting out like your tech career, having a conversation with 10 of your friends yield 10 different responses. Maybe your friend who works at Flutter might say, no, you have to learn Flutter. Or maybe your friend who works at somewhere else might say, hey, you need to learn HTML, CSS. Another one says you need to learn React and Vue. Another one says you need to learn Python, data science is the new thing, machine learning is the new thing. And then you're caught in between, and the decision for someone who has no context about what these things are, the pros and the cons, you're in between making a choice. And even when you open like your browser to search for things about, you have like this bias, and most of your biases are confirmed. So if the first person said, learn C#, when you go online to browse C#, your search engine gives you more reason to learn C#. And if you say learn JavaScript and you go to browse about it, you get more reason to learn JavaScript. And then that adds to your 200 unfinished Coursera courses. So how do we make sure C# will not be another Coursera course you take and you don't finish it? I'll try to share some thoughts and why I think it might be a good decision for you. Hopefully it is. So I would say start from the dream and work backwards. Steve Jobs was notoriously known for talking about Apple's vision to start from the customer experience and work backward. And I would say, okay, for you, who is probably thinking of starting like a career in tech, what's the dream really? Do you want to build mobile apps? Do you want to build web apps? Do you want to build desktop apps? Or quite honestly, you are actually about the money? None of this is an illegal objective, even if you wanted more money, by the way. There's nothing wrong with wanting more money, I guess. So what exactly is the dream? Do you want to blow or not blow? Or do you really have fun? Or you really have this big idea for maybe your startup, the next Nigerian startup, and you think maybe if you had a mobile skill, you might be better off? Or maybe you want to build web apps because you have this idea, or maybe you want to join, you have a company in mind you want to join. What exactly should be your motivation? I would say you start there first and then you work backward to the technology. So this takes us back to choose your fighter. But before you choose your fighter, you really want to still go back to my previous slide. What was your motivation? Are you playing competitively or not? Are you playing with a friend? Are you playing with your younger sibling or not? So before I go on to talk about why I would choose C#, which is my final slide, my question for you is, what exactly is your natural disposition in programming? Would you prefer cross-platform apps? Would you prefer any job whatsoever as far as it pays the bills? Would you prefer a technology that is tilted more to web apps? I would not be able to make that choice for you, but let's assume that you've made that choice or not made that choice. I will share with you the next part, which is C#. Unfortunately, C# happens to be the 7th most in demand programming language in 2022. In some of the ratings, you might see it come 8th. But do you know the interesting part? JavaScript, HTML, CSS actually comes first, second, and maybe third, respectively. But it turns out almost everyone in this room might have learned HTML and CSS at some point. They never felt like they made any progress. They never even felt like it was challenging enough. So maybe this metric is not enough for you, but C# sits at number 7. The second thing is, as much as a lot of people don't know, a lot of financial systems are heavily reliant on .NET technologies like C#. So here at Bloomberg, where I am very fortunate to work, we have some sort, and this leaves for a bit of stability. One of the things people want to learn is what would be in use in the future. So the financial world is very, I don't want to say very rigid, but it's because of the impact of the work, it's not one of those things that are prone to like quick changes. So if you have a technology that is embedded into financial systems, then you can give a reasonable bet that it will still be relevant for the next couple of years. And that's a big plus. Another thing for someone who is starting out, you may not know a lot about open source projects or whatsoever. Don't bother yourself about it. But you need to know that C# has the backing of one of the big companies out there, Microsoft. And why does this matter? It's because things come and go, languages come and go, things become popular and not popular at the same time after a couple of years. Just the same way a couple of years ago, everyone wanted to learn VBA, Excel. Yes, it's still there, but is it like in demand? Not quite. It's the same way you want to be concerned about if I'm to invest 2 years of my life after youth service or 3 years of my life to learn a technology, how sure am I that at the time I'm becoming good at it, it's not being phased into something else? So like I said, financial systems are reliant on it. There are lots of opportunities in Nigeria and out of Nigeria that are heavily reliant on this tech. It has a backing of Microsoft. They're pushing a lot of, putting a lot of their weight behind it to see it through. And then we can talk about cross-platform. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, whether you're interested in doing this for mobile or web or desktop intentions, C# actually has cross-platform. So I don't need to learn 5 different technologies to build 5 different apps. With C# you can do this on a single platform, and that's what cross-platform means. For the rest of you who probably do not have proper like technology, just imagine cross-platform means that with one technology, I can build software for multiple platforms or systems. For the geeks, you might be really interested in game development, which is very, it takes quite some doing, and it's a very bubbly industry as well. Maybe you want to work for Pro Evolution Soccer, or you want to work for Konami or whatsoever. Over 61% of game developers in 2022 are opting for Unity. So C# is not just the thing you want to stumble on, maybe because you want to build web, mobile, or desktop applications. You might be really interested in game development, and you have C# is actually at the very core of that. You have C# technologies there. And then I decided to add 2 things for those who are very honest about their intention about working on anything that gives money. The average on pay scale for like a US developer who is highly skilled at C# is 90 grand. So it's okay if you want more money, but C# is also another path to more money. And then another point for why you might want to consider C# out there is documentation and learning resources. Thanks to our great Indian friends who create free tutorials, you might find it helpful to know that C# has lots and lots of free training materials that you can capitalize on. From experience, the next question would be, why would you, as much as we have free training materials, I might just steal one question away from your heart, which would be, Francis, would you advise me to register for a paid training over like a free C# training since it has lots of documentation? And the answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that we, in my experience, find lacking is the lack of mentorship. So yes, you can get hundreds and thousands of JavaScript tutorials on YouTube that teach you how to build websites. You can get hundreds and thousands of tutorials on YouTube that teach you how to write C#. But it is always advised that you have some direct mentorship. And the reason is because picking a new career path becomes more difficult if you have to bootstrap and learn by yourself. As an autodidact myself, I actually benefited from lots of mentorship, which is like the last point I really want to emphasize. In your quest to pick C#, you might stumble on a lot of hurdles because although they're like, the internet is replete with a lot of resources to learn, there is a place for mentorship, which makes the whole journey even easier. So again, I would say that documentation and resources are well available online, but you may want to really consider a paid structured learning path so you don't spend most of your time learning random things that may not exactly translate to your objective. I will like to emphasize like my previous slide, which is this one. This one. It doesn't matter what your objectives are for wanting to learn any language. Essentially, you boil down to this. Every language is potentially a high-paying job in the future. JavaScript is one of them, Python is one of them, 1,000 other languages every day can also give you the money. Whether, if you want to, however, consider more technical reasons, like, okay, my intention is to build websites, my intention is to build mobile apps, then I would strongly recommend C#. So it doesn't matter what your your intentions are, but C# is definitely going to be a good language to learn. And like I mentioned, there are thousands and thousands of opportunity in Nigeria. Just by the way, and not just Nigeria, in Africa, I know that in Rwanda and Kenya, you have most of the big companies, Amazon and Google, establishing offices. And what that tells you is that in the next 2-3 years, there would be thousands and thousands of jobs that would be opening up for people in Africa, and you may want to make that decision already. So I know you have a lot of questions, and some of your questions might be related to, so do I pick C# or Python? I would have to refer you back to choose your fighter and start from the dream and work backwards. But this is like supposed to be like a high level stuff. Hopefully your questions will make me help you better by answering direct questions about whether C# might be right for you or not. Yeah, that's it. So thank you. I can take questions.
Wow. Thank you, Francis. Thank you for that impact of information and knowledge shared. I don't know. Is everyone, am I being heard?
I can hear you, Ma.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we'll just very quickly dive into the Q&A session. So if you have your questions, please use the chat room, or you can you could use the raise hand button and speak up.
I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see the chat and see your faces too.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Questions I encourage. We want this to be as participating as possible and engaging. So please come forth with your questions.
Okay, maybe while the questions are coming, I'd like to share like a little story, a bit of my career story. I joined CypherCrescent in 2016, graduating from University of New. And I was already building like some C# applications. And when I joined, that was my first work experience. I didn't know what to go and where next. I had mentorship, and that's very important. It's something I really want to emphasize, because you can hustle up on your own, Google stuff, YouTube stuff, and you may not be able to push yourself past like the hard mark. And it's part of the reason why I really would want to encourage people to consider mentorship, consider paying for a structured learning path, because no matter how self-motivated you might be, you would not be able to push yourself past those hours of despair. There are moments when you feel like this thing is not getting any better. I better look for a normal job. This is not for me. It's always important for you to consider mentorship. And I hear that I work for CypherCrescent, and I will always try to talk about the things that are really worth benefiting from. I hear that there are like plans for like a training for C#. I would really encourage you to leverage it, because it was like a kickstart point for my career. And like I mentioned, yes, you can find a lot of resources free on YouTube and stuff, but the difference between a structured learning path and direct mentorship would always outweigh the impact of you trying to navigate a career path for yourself. So just something I wanted to put out there for you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The role of mentorship, very important, to give direction and help minimize the errors. I don't know if Murphy, if you're available.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Before we take the questions, please, you could just proceed. After that, we'll have the questions.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good day, wherever you are. wherever you are connected from. It's good to be here. Please confirm you can hear me very well, anyone.
Loud and clear.
All right. Thank you very much. So, first of all, I want to appreciate the resource person, Mr. Francis, for handling this session very well. And also, it was quite a short session, but for those of us who listened from the beginning, I'm sure we've been able to learn a thing or two from this session. So I'm just going to quickly run through a few points, like a summary, based on the things that we heard Francis talk about during this session. Right, so by the way, my name is Murphy Ochuba. For those on the session who probably do not know me, I'm a software engineer with CypherCrescent. Francis is also one of my mentors, so it's good to listen to him again today. So basically, some of the things that one of the very important things that Francis mentioned in the course of this lesson, and this is me taking a summary before we go into the question and answer, right? So one of the major things he mentioned is choose your fighter. And it actually brings a lot of memories to mind for those of us who played some video games as kids, like Mortal Kombat or stuff like that, right? The fighter you choose would make you be able to play the games better, or or put you at a disadvantage. And he mentioned the different considerations for picking a programming language to learn. Mentioned the finance part of it, right? The financial consideration. Oh, of course, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to make money, make a lot of money. So if money is your driving force, is mentorship your driving force, is documentation, or availability of mentors or people that can help you out when you run into issues. Because just like he said during the session, as a developer, irrespective of the language that you are using, you get to meet challenges along the line. You get to meet roadblocks, and sometimes the roadblocks are, you can Google them and then get past them, but those are like the smaller roadblocks, right? And sometimes you get to meet maybe bugs or issues that will take you a couple of hours or a couple of days or even a couple of weeks for you to figure out. And in those times, when you have mentorship, when you have people who have passed through that same problem, it's easy for you to get past them, right? And then he also talked about the fact that a lot of financial systems are reliant on .NET technologies, talked about the backing of Microsoft. And then he talked about the fact that you are able to build cross-platform applications with C#. Of course, C# is not the only language that you can build cross-platform applications with, but it's actually one of the advantages. So you learn one language, you can build mobile applications, you can build web applications, you can build desktop applications, as the case may be. And then there's also a lot of documentation online, so, and learning resources, okay, of which we will also talk to you about some of the other learning resources that CypherCrescent has to offer, maybe much later in this webinar. So at this point, again, I'd like to thank Mr. Francis for that very lucid session. I will just go straight to the question. I'll help to anchor the question and answer session. I'll just throw the question to him, he will respond, and perhaps if maybe I want to make a comment or so, I can do that, but primarily he'll be the one responding to all of your questions. So how many hours will it take to have a mastery in C#? That's the first question we have from the audience. And Mr. Francis, I think you probably want to take that.
There was like some theory that if you invest, is it 10,000 hours, you'll be a master. I'm sure I've hit that number and probably surpassed it, but I don't feel like a master at all. I go every day online and I feel like a student, and part of it is because the world is constantly evolving. I guess it takes 10,000 hours to master something that is static, maybe, but for something that is constantly evolving, maybe it's 10,000 times all the steps of evolution. So, and you don't need to be a master to be profitable, even if you are looking at money or productivity. So, I would say don't seek for mastery just yet. You might just get discouraged.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, from what you just said, it sounds like you probably never attained mastery, because given the amount of the frequency of evolution of technology. Of course, you might learn something today and think you are gradually getting towards mastery, and then tomorrow there's some kind of change. C#11 is out or C#15 is out, right? So in the light of that, I guess the whole idea is taking us back for those of us who probably know mathematics. When you say something is tending towards infinity or tending towards zero, it means that you just keep tending towards mastery, but you probably just have to keep pushing yourself hard and going faster. I guess that's what you're trying to say in a sense, Mr. Francis.
Yeah, mastery is just completely elusive. It's what you think it's like a place you think you'll get to someday, but it just keeps moving forward. And the people who might even see you as a master of the craft might be people who are far away. And for the rest of us, we just continuously see ourselves as students. So, and like I mentioned, irrespective of whether you're looking at this for whatever the motivation is, whether it's for the monetary purposes or maybe as your next career switch or whatsoever, mastery is not exactly a requirement. As a matter of fact, for all of tech, as far as I have seen and experienced, what matters is your ability to stay teachable, to stay hungry for knowledge. It's really fast moving. So if I have to say I have to be a master of something, I have to keep that thing constant and say mastery is when I get to this point. But then that point goes higher. The bar keeps getting. So just start.
Yeah, I think most importantly, from the comments you've made, most importantly, I think what everybody should take home is that you don't need mastery to be profitable. I think that's like a very salient point. You just need to keep raising the bar for yourself. You need to keep pushing yourself harder and you'll get there. All right, thanks. So the next question very quickly from Ife Oluwa. The first one was from Emis. Second one is Ife Oluwa. How relevant is C# in the oil and gas industry? That's the second question we have.
I would say very, very relevant, and that's because you have most apps from the 90s running on Excel, which is also based on the whole .NET. In that regard, they were almost all Windows application. You hardly see someone in the oil and gas with a MacBook. So most of them were Windows-based, and within those Windows-based applications, you had Windows applications running, which were running all on the .NET architecture, or mostly on the .NET architecture, if you pardon me. So, and then we had VB.NET. We also had people writing macros, which had very high similarities with what would become the C# syntax and all of that. So think of C# as like an evolution of so many things that had already existed on the operating system Windows. So is it relevant? Yes, most applications still built in the oil and gas are desktop applications. And most of those desktop applications are still running on the Windows operating system. And in the Windows operating system, most of the applications they are still running on .NET. So I would think about it to still be very, very relevant.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I believe your question has been addressed, Ife Oluwa. Just in case you still have gray areas, perhaps you can drop a message on the chat. I'll just go straight to the next question from Precious Okon. Do you think everyone really needs to learn a programming language? Like, do you think it's possible to retain relevance or be successful without learning programming?
I think it's rather philosophical than technical. Stay relevant without, I'm not so sure Floyd Money Mayweather can program. I'm not also sure Anthony Joshua can write a piece of code. But these are names that you know. I can mention 10 software engineers that you don't know. So define relevance. In my opinion, from a philosophical standpoint, I'm not going to push anyone to learn a programming skill, because I think we should never get so obsessed about solving problems than we are about using solutions to problems. Like, I'll just give like something very, and like I said, this is a personal opinion. Do not hold this on any technical basis. Back then, we were taught, up till now, I think in most West African exams, people still use their their 4-figure tables, But if you go to some parts of Asia and some parts of Europe, nobody cares. But we are still so obsessed about learning how to solve it that we are not doing anything with the solution. the reason why we are in an age where at this age, what would happen is a lot of people would be so interested in building technology, but there is no guarantee that the next age that would come will be about building technology. It might be about using technology effectively. So again, to the point, I personally don't think that our relevance is tied to a skill. However, if you are in certain industries, certain skills would be must-have. I don't think people who are fashion designers learn to code, and I'm not sure it's more important than having a six-pack to them, you know. So I would say that certain industries are more predisposed to having this as like a hard requirement for relevance, while some aren't. It's just to check what the requirements would be around the industry where you think you might be spending the rest of your life, you know, and try to meet that requirement. But just like a line cutting globally that everybody in the world, all 7 billion, would need to be able to code by 2020 or 2023 or 2040. I don't think our relevance is tied to hard skills in that regard.
Okay, thank you very much for that response, Mr. Francis. I'll just go straight to the next question. I want to believe that Precious is fine. We have quite a number of questions that are popping in, but I'll see if we can take them very quickly so that we don't overshoot the time. So we have from Blessing Ben, are there constant upgrade versions of C# that can take the new trends of other programming language or framework features? I don't know if you understand the question, but Mr. Francis, are there constant upgrade versions of C# that can take the new trends of other programming languages or framework features?
Yeah, I think definitely, because if you look at most languages, they more, I mean, for lack of better words, they steal features from themselves. C# started looking more like Java, and then, you know, veered off. And if you look at modern, the latest releases of C#, you're beginning to look more like a scripted language, almost looking like some part of Python, less boilerplate code, you know, beginning to look more dynamic and more like easy to strap up. So yes, there are today, and I would expect that in the near future, most languages would begin to look very, very identical one way or the other.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we'll go to the next question. Does age matter in learning? Is there any age limit in getting a job in tech? This is from Olumide.
At least not on LinkedIn. I've seen all sorts of stuff on LinkedIn. I think the only thing I've not seen on LinkedIn is where someone said I was dead and I woke up and I became a tech expert, you know. But you see a lot of really intimidating stories on LinkedIn about people learning a tech skill at 45, at 60, you know. So whether or not we should believe that is up to how negative or how positive you are. But it appears that different people are able to pick up tech skills at several ages. And some people, for good reason, may not also be able to pick up that skill, and it's not a bad color on them. So is there any age limit to getting a job in tech? There are some things I would also like to share as tips. I see that having been recruited and having recruited before, I think one of the mistakes people do is they shoot themselves in the foot by putting the year of graduation on their resume. It's really horrible. Stop doing that. I know that in Nigeria, they always want to hire people under 30, but if you're applying to Nigerian companies and even companies overseas, please and please do not put your year of graduation. And the reason is because it could be used against you when it shouldn't have. So it's extra information. I would also say that if you're starting out late, do not worry about what the future challenges would be. I mean, just start out anyhow. You might be surprised where it takes you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Francis. I think you answered that question quite well. We just have 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up this section. Is it true, this is from Rotimi Omunusi, is it true that hosting a C#.NET web application is costlier than other programming languages like PHP?
Besides that, I hate PHP and I would really have loved to say no. The truth is I don't know the answer. So maybe I would, I mean, I really dislike PHP. So, but like I said, it's about choosing your fighter. So I wish I could just say no. In fact, PHP is the most expensive, but that would not be accurate. I would need to Google and let you know. But I think most of the billing you find on cloud hosted pay-as-you-go services are based on like core matrices, like maybe computational time, number of requests, number of reads or writes, storage, and not based on the choice of the underlying technology. But I might be right, I might be wrong. I would have to Google to know.
All right, thank you very much. I guess that just shows that nobody is a competent of all the knowledge in the world, right? So
Yeah.
you don't expect Francis to know everything, just like you would not expect any software engineer, even software engineers. And this is actually for everyone who probably is just starting out in tech or who is looking to start out in tech. Don't try to bother yourself about knowing everything, because some of those knowledge you'll probably not use them. You get to learn on the go and get to improve yourself as the need arises. So apparently, Mr. Francis has never had to use this knowledge before, and that's why he probably doesn't know. Which is fine.
Don't worry,
right.
Don't worry, Murphy. You don't have to defend me so hard. You know, actually, if the internet goes out for 24 hours, I would rather be a farmer than a software engineer, because I spend most of my time Googling than actually doing stuff from my memory.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. All right, don't we all? All right, the final question is from Gideon Edogu. For one that has gone far in learning C#, but hasn't really covered everything in C#, do you advise such person to take on a tutorial class, teaching people the basics from the beginning so as to improve? What do you think?
Yes, I believe that teaching is one of the quickest ways to actually fill knowledge gaps. Whether you would improve because of your ego or you would improve because of your hunger for knowledge, something about teaching makes you go back to fill all the holes in your knowledge. Maybe because you feel you might be asked the question in your next class, or for whatever reason. So yes, I think if you have an opportunity to share the knowledge you have, it might be a good thing to consider, if you ask me. And I don't think there's any part of your possible future where you would cover everything in C#. I mean, even the developers of the language do not know everything that has been developed by all the 15,000 people globally. So you don't have to bother.
Okay, thank you very much again, Mr. Francis, for that response. So now I'm going to just ask a final question, which is also like just to wrap up the session, because we've taken all of the questions in the chat. So this is still tying to the topic of the day, which talks about global opportunities in C#. So just like a final word or a final comment for everyone, what's that global opportunity, or what are those global opportunities in C# that people should really leverage if they, to say, okay, I want to start learning C# today because there are opportunities out there? What will be your say in that regard?
It's an endless list. It really is an endless list. There are opportunities, like I mentioned, in the financial world. The financial world, unlike your friends who are willing to change languages every 3 weeks, the financial world is based on trillions of dollars and pounds, and they don't change technology that often, and they have to maintain those systems. So there are opportunities there in C#. I'm sure maybe some of you might have been using your web app on your Zenith Bank or Access Bank, and you see some ASP errors. ASP is actually a C# based technology. So there are like healthcare as well. I know that, like I mentioned, I know that media might put Python out there, but again, there are lots and loads of opportunities that you would find globally. I cannot even pick like exactly call off memory some of them, but like I mentioned, the finance part is one of them, and health as well, and most legacy systems too. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So based on the statistics you gave us, which says like the average salary of a C# developer in the US is like $90K dollars a year, annual salary. So I guess maybe we can conclude that the pay is quite good in that regard. So maybe aside other attractions.
And like I mentioned, it's worth considering because there is massive expansion in Africa planned for the next couple of years, which some of you might spend within those years learning. So there is massive opportunities coming in Africa. Even Bloomberg has like an office in Lagos, and there are like loads and loads of opportunities that are coming up that would really require this skill. So it's not too late for you to invest another 1 year of your life picking up some very decent skill. And for God's sakes, please stay on one language. It's not advisable for you to spend having 5 years experience learning 20 things. Stay on something for at least 2 years and thank yourself later.
Yeah, I think thanks for that last advice. Like the saying goes, I'd rather practice one move 10,000 times than practice 10,000 moves once. So I guess that's like a similar analogy to what you said. We were supposed to have closed the questions, but I don't know if perhaps we'll just take this last one. Should once you learn C#, even with a C and C++ knowledge, would you advise such? After this, I won't take any other questions for sake of time. Yeah.
I would still say choose your fighter. C++ is the very core of most financial systems because they need high performance stuff. But how many C++ jobs would you find, being that it's highly expertized, might be another question. So I would again say if you have C++, then you may want to look for the industries where C++ is like Diamond or Blood Ruby, and put in your applications there rather than try to start a new journey into another language or technology. But if you decide to do it, you will not be disappointed because there are opportunities in C#. But if you already have some decent knowledge of C++, why exactly would you want to be a student again?
All right. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Francis, for this very engaging session. The last 45 minutes or so have been very engaging and indeed taking a lot of questions. Some really, for anyone who is looking to start out in tech, very importantly, choose your fighter properly. Choose your fighter, walk backwards, know what the end game is for you. And that end game will determine what you choose, what language you decide to choose as your fighter. And when you eventually choose your fighter, you'd rather stay on course and to continue practicing and learning one language, one or two languages, rather than just taking a lot of languages. Become good at one thing and then practice it a lot of times, and then. Yeah, and then finally, just like you said, you need mentorship as much as possible. So you can easily just run off and learn languages online or take tutorials online, read books, read blog posts, watch videos. But when you have mentorship, you are able to ask questions. Ask your own questions, not just from tutorial videos. Have one-on-one interaction with people who have gone on the journey ahead of you, right? So those are some of the very important points. So once again, I want to appreciate Mr. Francis for making out time from his very busy schedule to be part of this session, and want to thank everyone who has asked questions. I'll just hand over at this point to Mr. Lawrence to just give us a few words before we finally wrap up for the day. Mr. Lawrence.
All right, thank you, Murphy. Thank you, Francis, for that very informative session. At least I'm going home with one thing: to choose my fighter, so I'll win the fight. So just to close the session, some of us maybe might be wondering who is behind this webinar session, and it's very important that we actually let you know. So this is organized by CypherCrescent L&D. So if you are wondering what CypherCrescent L&D, you get the information in a while. So CypherCrescent is actually a company that is involved with research. Okay, we started with oil and gas, 100% indigenous. So we try to break the barriers of, when they say, if you want to hide anything from Africa, man, put it in a book. So we move from first principle physics, mathematics, modeling, thermodynamics principles and all that. The area where people run away from the oil and gas, having to kind of simulate what happens downhole. We actually operate in the area what we call upstream. For clarity's sake, we have upstream in the oil and gas. We have midstream, stream, and downstream. Anything that has to do with bringing oil from, wherever it is underneath the surface to the surface, what they call upstream. So I'm not going to go further than that. So it involves petroleum engineering, geoscience, software development, and all that. So you might be wondering, why are we talking about C#? I can tell you here that CypherCrescent chose the fighter from day one, and the fighter is C#. And the core of all our research, development, and everything is actually built on C#. So we do mathematical modeling. We have won a lot of awards. Okay, CEPA you see there is what we call our flagship products, currently running in a couple of oil and gas industries. So why are we talking about capacity development? We have evolved over the years. We started originally to do research and development, and as the outcome, we're able to produce a software that is being used in the oil and gas industry today. And most of the companies using this technology call for support, technical support. So as a necessity, we started offering those supports. We realized that some of them need extra training, so they're able to understand our core technology. So as a demand, we started training our clients. Come to think about it, say, why can't we extend this training to every other person? And we needed to scale it, and that's how it came about the industry school. So our traction, we've done over, so far 1,000 training man-hours, 200 personnel, 15 courses, 10 oil and gas industries, and companies in 3 countries within the last 2 years. These are some of our clients, which I'm not just going to, talk about now. So straight to learning and development. So it's actually a company, a spin-off from CypherCrescent, because we realize that in CypherCrescent, we do a lot of capacity development. When you come, the way the company is structured, like you have to learn a lot. You don't just come and start working, any salary. Part of your, we need to go, you need to go through, part of our culture is that you need to go through the training first principle. Even if you're an intern, you need to understand the core of our technology. So we decided to say, okay, we need to establish this industry school. And the vision for the industry school is actually to be a center of excellence where 2 things happen: upskilling and reskilling. I think Francis says something that you can never finish learning, so it's actually captured in this vision, for professionals, whether it's in the industry or in the government or in the academia. So to provide a learning experience to solve emerging local and global challenges, leveraging on 3 key things: people, the process, and the technology. And the cardinal focus areas we are looking at is industry training, the structured training, and capacity building. So today we are focusing on the capacity building, and that's why we are talking about the global opportunities in C#. So food for thought, right? In the world today, if you look at these charts, why are we doing this? I can tell you that Africa is made up of a very young population that is even growing. Look at the dotted line. You see the population is growing. This was done in 2020, and it is projected that at some point the young population in Africa will outgrow, every other continent. Okay, given the rate at which you are growing, this was extrapolated. So the future of Africa actually depends on how well the capacity of its youthful population is harnessed. The data on the right-hand side is actually very scary. I think if you're following the conversation around the election in Nigeria, one of the key things is unemployment, which is causing a lot of, other vices in society, like, insecurity and all that. It's very scary that we have 23 million Nigerian workforces that are unemployed. And, in this workforce, most of them are under the age of 34. And this is actually what they call the useful age of a human being. If you look at the normal human life curve, and out of, this number, 5 million, which 15.3% are actually people that have passed through the 4 walls of an academic institution. So what are we saying here? Graduating from school is not a guarantee to get a job. Now, the last 2 points on the right is actually very encouraging. As of November last year, in America alone and in Europe, we have this number of shortage of tech skills. Now, by 2030, it is projected. Actually all these statistics you can see, I gave the reference. One is from Bloomberg. So Francis, one is coming from your company. So one is from International Labour Organization. We have National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria here. The last one is coming from International Monetary Fund. So it is project. Google this thing also. I like what Francis said. Knowledge is no longer hidden. Just type in shortage of tech skill in the world. So by 2030, if the rate at which we are going continues, we are going to have 85 million demand for tech skill. So when we're talking about global opportunity, here you have it. So this is a food for thought. And it takes you to upscale yourself and for you to be able to earn this opportunity. It's not going to be given to you on a platter of gold. So here we have an array of courses that we're already offering to close this gap. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I think we asked at the beginning, do you want to specialize in oil and gas, or do you want to specialize in tech? So this is actually what we are known for. We are known for oil and gas, technology provision, as well as software development as well. So let me introduce what we call Software Academy to you, right? As part of what we are doing to solve this problem. CypherCrescent actually we ran the first cohort of the Virtual Software Academy 2022 this year. It was a vigorous process. More than 400 people applied. We had to do a lot of field training. We ended up with 48 trainings that went through intensive 6 months program. We did both front end, a separate track, and back end, a separate track. At the end of the day, 12 candidates, were able to, make it to the final stage. And at the end of the day, we made sure that they are job ready for different industry, fintech, e-commerce, and oil and gas. And a couple of them are currently with us in CypherCrescent. So among them, of course, we have students, recent graduates who have NYSC. So I know a lot of you fall within this category as well. So it is for you. Now, the good news is that we are not stopping, right? We are not stopping anytime soon. So now that you have all this information, what next? That's the question. So after hearing all the news, all the opportunity, you have to do something. So next year, we're going to progress our software academy. We are going to repurpose it. We are going to have like a full stack development track. We are going to start with the front end, with the back end. Of course, C# as mentioned, here is going to be one of our core technology that we'll be using, one of the tracks that we'll be taking shortly. So please, having heard all these things, don't just go, the session was interesting, it was wonderful and all that. You have to do something, right? So in a simple step, I just want to leave you with this message. This is where I'm going to stop the presentation. I'm going to leave this on the screen. Please, this is the most important action you are going to take. So please just scan, if you can scan, look at the URL there. You can type it on your web browser. You can equally call the phone number on the screen, or you send us an email, learning@cyphercrescent.com. So thank you very much for attending this session. Hopefully we are going to hear from you. I believe that most of you will fill this form, and we're going to be contacting you as our due. So thank you very much. I will leave this on the screen, and it's left for you to actually join us as we kickstart the Software Academy next year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. We are gradually coming to the end of today's program. We are in the next 2 minutes or so, we are going to wrap up. And just like he said, what you see on your screen is the sign-up form for our 2023 Software Academy, right? And you can start now to register. For those who are interested in joining the academy, based on all of these things you've heard now, you can sign up for the training, and you can also share this link with your friends who would like to sign up for the training, and then we'll contact you later on with further details about how it's going to run. Okay, just like what Mr. Francis said on the chat, Mr. Francis, who was our facilitator for today's session, is also going to be one of the facilitators and mentors in the course of that program. So if you've heard from Mr. Francis today and you probably want to learn from him, I personally learned from Mr. Francis. He's one of the people that I learned from in my journey as a software developer, and I've actually taught other people to over the last couple of years. So Francis is going to be one of our facilitators and mentors, provide mentorship and guidance, career guidance during our 2023 Software Academy. So just in case you would like to learn from Mr. Francis and other very seasoned mentors and facilitators that we have lined up, you can just quickly fill this form. You don't have to pay to fill the form, right? Just fill the form, and then we would definitely contact you with other details on how we should run. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to just quickly wrap up the session. Once again, I want to appreciate everyone for joining today's session. Every single person on the session, I want to appreciate you. I want to appreciate Mr. Francis as well, even though he has dropped off. We hope that the session has been quite an engaging and interesting one for you, and that you have been able to learn a lot from it. We'll hope to also hear from you. You can send us a mail or call us on the number you see on our screen, or at least fill the form, and then we can take it up from there. So thank you very much, everyone, and do have a lovely Thursday evening. And I don't know if Mr. Lawrence wants to make any final words.
Yeah, someone dropped a comment at I just want to point out. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's Amy talking about can one learn alongside his job? So the answer is yes. Just fill the form. Okay. When you come in, we'll be able to accommodate that. Some people are already doing it right now. They will have a session running with machine learning, a machine learning session currently ongoing, and 80% of those participating in the machine learning training are people that are gainfully employed right now. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. So that's the only, I just saw it on the side. I just wanted to respond to that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Sorry, I missed that out, Mr. Lawrence, and thanks for pointing that out. So just in case you have any other questions outside of what you've mentioned or what you've written down in the chat, you can send us a mail. The mail you see on your screen, or you call us on the number, or you simply fill the sign-up form, and then we will definitely contact you. We'll be in touch. All right. At this point, I'm going to declare this session closed. Thank you again, Lydia, for starting the moderation, even though I'm closing it now. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And we hope to also see you in our November webinar and subsequent webinars. Make sure you come with your friends or other people who you would like to benefit from such engagements. Thank you, and have a very lovely rest of the day. Cheers.